Okay, I will call to order the regular scheduled meeting of the City Council for the City of Rocky Mount on January 11th. It's currently approximately 7:11. This time I'd like to, everybody, if they would please stand and observe a moment of silence. Thank you. This time I'd like to ask City Clerk if she'll please call the roll.
Councilmember Knight.
Here.
Blackwell.
Here.
Joyner.
Here.
Walker.
Here.
Daughtridge.
Here.
Bullock. And Miller.
Here.
Great. This time I'd like to ask if there are any additions or deletions to the agenda.
I'd like to see about going into a closed session for attorney-client privilege after the meeting.
Councilman Daughtridge has asked for a closed session in the meeting. Is there a second or anybody object to that? All right, then I'll ask everybody to vote on the agenda as presented with that addition. City Clerk, if you please call the roll.
Councilmember Knight.
Yes.
Blackwell.
Yeah.
Joyner.
Yeah.
Walker.
Yes.
Daughtridge.
Yes.
Bullock. And Miller.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. So the new agenda is going to be. All right, item 4 is the approval of the minutes of the regular.
I have
I'm
one
sorry.
more
Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
I wanna
Councilman
add-
Knight.
in reference to, a lot of concerns about Sudden Link. And I know
Yes,
some others.
yes,
you
I would
have-
like to talk about that as well.
So I would like, if you would put that on the agenda, that we could begin that discussion.
Can we add that in the closed session? Would you be,
I would second that.
would you?
I'll
propose
third
that?
it.
Close that. Oh, well, could we introduce it to the open?
Sure,
Yeah.
absolutely. All right.
All right.
That's fine. All right, so item 19, well, let's go to this. Item 19, we'll discuss Sudden Link. Item 20 will be the closed session. Is there any objections to adding Sudden Link to the conversation? Okay, hearing none, we'll just add it. Okay, with that said, let's move on to item 4, which is the approval of the minutes of the regular scheduled city council meeting that was held on November 23rd, 2020 and December 14th of 2020. Recommended action is to approve the minutes. Do I hear a motion? Motion made by Councilman Joyner. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Blackwell. Any need for discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask City Clerk if she will please call the roll. Please vote when your name has been called.
Councilmember Knight.
Yes.
Blackwell.
Yes.
Joyner.
Yes.
Walker. Daughtridge.
Yes.
Bullock. And Miller.
Yes.
Okay, carries. Item 5 is consideration of the minutes and recommendations of a regular scheduled committee of the whole meeting that was held December 14th, 2020. Recommended action is to approve the minutes and recommendations. Do I hear a motion?
So move.
Motion by Councilman Walker, second by Councilman Blackwell. Is there a need for discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask City Clerk if she'll please call the roll. If you'll please vote when your name's called.
Councilmember Knight.
Yes.
Blackwell.
Yes.
Joyner. Walker. Daughtridge.
Yes.
Bullock. And Miller.
Yes.
Motion carried. Item carries. At this time, I'll turn the agenda over and the mic over to City Manager Rochelle Small-Tony for our community update.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council, and the citizens of Rocky Mount. Good evening. I hope this update finds everyone well as we enter 2021. I'd like to invite our community to join the Human Relations Department as we welcome social welfare and justice advocate Clara J. Esther as a keynote speaker for the 33rd Annual Martin Luther King Jr. Unity Program on Monday, January the 18th. The event begins at 8 a.m. and will be broadcasted live via YouTube. The Unity Breakfast will also feature speeches from the winners of the MLK Jr. Oratorical Contest that was held virtually this past Saturday. Oratorical middle school winner was Raven Whitaker. Second place winner was Noah Martinez, and third place winner was Chandler Logan. The high school winner was Jasmine Hill, and the second place went to Nayana Sharad. You can visit RockyMountNC.gov for more details on the event. The Minority Women Business Enterprise Program will hold a virtual workshop entitled The Numbers of Doing Business from 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. on Friday, January the 22nd. Sessions will include basic business financials, resources for resilient MWBEs, marketing on a budget, and loan applications made easy. Registration information as well as more on our MWBE program is available at RockyMountNC.gov. The Imperial Center for the Arts and Sciences remains closed due to COVID-19 restrictions. However, I do encourage the community to sign up for free virtual arts education programs, including yoga, creative writing, and calligraphy. Visit imperialcenter.org and RockyMountNC.gov for more information. As a reminder, the City of Rocky Mount's extended moratorium on disconnection of utility services due to COVID-19 hardship were lifted effective Monday, October 30. We are, however, working with customers to work out reasonable payment arrangements on past due balances. Late fees will not be assessed for accounts until March 30, 2021. Business and Collection Services encourages payments via drive-through at 224 South Franklin Street, online via RockyMountNC.gov or by phone at 972-1250. The department is also working with customers who qualify for COVID-19 relief funds due to financial hardships. Proof of financial hardship via lost wages must be provided to receive federal COVID-19 relief funds. Please note, the OIC continues to hold COVID-19 testing sites at the Rocky Mount Event Center. Those tested will need to bring their photo ID and insurance cards. Insurance is not required for testing. Testing days are Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Registration can be performed prior to arrival by logging on to oicrmhub.com. Call 252-210-9856 for more information. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for City Manager? Hearing none. Thank you again, Madam Manager.
Thank you.
That brings us to item 7 on our agenda, which are the petitions to be received from the public. Public petitions portion of the City Council meeting is an opportunity for the public comment, and the City Council appreciates your attendance and thanks you for expressing your views and opinions. City Council values all citizen input. This is an opportunity to raise a question or present a request to the council. However, in most cases, council members will not respond to public comments, but may refer a matter to city manager or staff for follow-up. Time will be monitored in order to give everyone an opportunity to speak, and speakers will have 3 minutes. Please be aware that sign-in sheets must be presented to the security officer prior to the opening of petitions from the public. If an organized group is present to speak on a common issue, please designate one person to present the group's comments. If your comments are in regard to an item that is the subject of a public hearing, please wait until that item is introduced to speak. Time will also be monitored. If your comments are in regard to an evidentiary hearing, additional time may be granted. City Council requests that you please adhere to the following guidelines. Complete a sign-in sheet, address comments to the council as a whole and not to individual council members or city staff. Speak from the podium in a civil, non-argumentative, and respectful manner. Personal attacks which have the potential to disrupt the meeting will not be tolerated, and you will be asked to sit down or removed from the meeting. Keep comments to 3 minutes. Thank you. This time I'd like to ask Mr. Johnny Cunningham to the podium.
Good evening, everyone. I had the pleasure of watching the whole meeting on on your Facebook page. And we're all working so diligently and hard. Can you imagine power washing the house this time of year? I'm over on Pinecrest, right down the street from Shady Circle, Mr. Mayor. Been power washing that thing for the last 3 days. There are some huge houses in that area. We're all working hard and diligently to try to mend our wounds and rebuild our city. And I shared that with you because I have an issue with one of your members of the Business Development Authority. And I don't normally read from a phone or notes, but I want to get this right in the description of the Business Development Authority. It's a nonprofit corporation that promotes the health, safety, morals, right of gainful employment, industrial, commercial opportunities, and general welfare of the community. The authority consists of a board of directors appointed by the mayor and the city council. Now, I don't appreciate one of your board members on social media and other places referring to me as an ex-convict and trying to belittle the work that we are so hard and diligently working together and mending our wounds and rebuilding our bridges to better our city. Is in the same case with the work that can't think of his name, the gentleman that's developing downtown is also an ex-convict. So we're doing some great works. To have a member of your board, this authority, to single us out, and we're doing great things for our city, is unacceptable, and not to mention is against your own policies. Now, the last time this Cedarburg came up to this council, Mr. Mayor, you asked the council to take action upon it. I'm requesting that this council, even though it was referred back to you because you appointed him, I'm asking that this council take action, number one. The second thing is this, I don't know if this is a question for the city attorney, but I know that when you obtain stolen property, it's called possession of stolen property. And when you take said property and download it from the black web or this dark web, you have to know that these materials are illegally obtained. And for you to distribute said material, especially to do harm to city council members' family, that's a criminal act. I ask that the city of Rocky Mount, this council, take legal action against Clint Williams for doing so.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cunningham. This time I'd like to ask Mr. Fonte Lyles to the podium.
Good evening, Councilman, Mayor. My name is Fonte Lyles. I'm a citizen of Rocky Mount, born and raised. Graduated Rocky Mount Senior High in 1992. Went on, joined the military, got out the military after 7 years, and I went to school at Prince George's Community College to major in mass communications. I came back home and I started coaching at Rocky Mount Senior High, well, at the Rocky Mount High School now, and I've been there now for 9 years, volunteering to coach with the football team. One thing that I want to do with Rocky Mount is preserve some of this history, because we have a rich history here in the city. And recently, I have started a company called Lyles Media Group. And with that company, I have been trying to create content for our community and in our area that's going to highlight good stuff in our community that we need. So the reason for me coming here today is to present an idea of creating a digital historical board or something to that sort. And I'm trying to use my company as a lead to do that for the city, because I think the history of our city has been looked over, and I would like to be a part of bringing that to light. And I would love to be able to work with any of you guys in getting that endeavor off the ground. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Laws. Do you
All right.
have something you want to add?
No, it's just great idea, great idea. And I would recommend, if you haven't already done so, to talk with purchasing to see how to begin to get in line with the how you obtain a contract or an award with the city. But that's a great idea. Thank you.
Okay, so could
Heard
you just
others.
give me a
Yes,
point of contact or something like that?
yes,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah, I think we'll have your
We
information.
do. We
Okay.
have his phone number right here.
All right, then you can expect to hear from the Director of Finance or the Purchasing Manager.
Okay, sounds great.
All right.
Sounds great. And I look forward to working with y'all as well.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr. Laws. This time I'd like to ask Mr. Samuel Battle to the podium.
Good evening, happy New Year's, everybody. It's gonna be a great year. I've been looking at stuff on Facebook about Herman Jones got $260,000 for his property. I don't know if it's true or not, but everybody's going across Facebook talking about a lot of stuff. But I'm gonna tell you this: I think he deserved $260,000. The man been in business for 52 years in Rocky Mount. He's a pioneer to us in our Black community in Rocky Mount. And he sold it for $260,000. If that is, let it be. Because the other companies got, the plumbing company got over $1 million. The other funeral homes got over $400,000. So what? He got $260,000. Let it be. You know what I'm saying? The Black community in the uproar about that. Let it be. Let it die. Let it go away. It is what it is. About the graveyard in Rocky Mount. I just want to come to the city and see the end of the funds that y'all have. Y'all came to agreement what y'all gonna do. We had cleared some paths for y'all to come and walk through the graveyard to see how it looked. Some of the graves are probably about 4 feet buried under brush, leaves, and everything. So half of it sticking out of the ground on the tip. Something need to be done. We got a lot of people working for Runner Rapids, Wilson, Halifax County, all over is gonna chip in and help us move some of this brush and this rubbish out of the cemetery. And we just want the support of the council to come up with some ounce of what y'all gonna do about it. And speaking to you, Mr. Blackwell, have respect for you. This is no
Please, sir, ask that you
Just
not
no
reference-
disrespect to you. But a lady called me when we had that conversation from Tarboro, North Carolina. She's a registered nurse, and she wanted to mention about the machine that we was talking about.
Mr. Battle, I'll ask that you refrain from addressing council directly.
The whole council.
Well, the individual.
Well, okay, about that situation, she
Please, can you move on to the next topic? I think that might be wiser.
I can't move on the next topic. The lady have stage 4 breast cancer. I got to give her the respect. She called me, and she's saying that machine need to be up and running, and she's gonna come and speak here at the city council. Give her that respect.
Okay.
She have breast cancer.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Battle. And I'm sure that.
She can come to OIC if it's an OIC issue. You can come to the people who run OIC. If it's sincere, they can call my general office If she has a complaint, the city council cannot make me do a thing, sir. This is OIC. So if you want to have it's a legitimate complaint, legitimate customer, please have her call our number. We're more than happy to speak with anyone. No problem.
I appreciate that, sir.
Certainly.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Bowden. Thank you, Councilman. Okay, I'd like to ask Mr. Cooper Blackwell to the podium.
Good evening. Hope all is well with everyone. I'm Cooper Blackwell, Ward 4 resident. Greetings to the council, the city staff, and community. Thank you all for supporting the vision that comes from the people, that has enabled us to help increase the capacity of some of our community members. I'm here today to just give you an update about the End Racism street mural, and let you know what's happening with that. Collective strengths that we have on our committee has allowed us to use some of our resources to cover the artists while they were on site for as far as donations and community support. So we also like to highlight some community members, Larima Coffee, Blanche's Bistro, and Dairy Queen that has made a commitment to sponsor and support this project as well. Larima provided coffee, Blanche's has provided lunch, and Dairy Queen is also providing lunch and a small care package for some of our artists. What's happening right now is that you all helped create an RFP process where members of the community and surrounding areas are able to apply and participate. The application consisted of a draft sketch and answering a few questions. I'm sure community members would like to know that. Our committee voted to propose to move the project recently to the street in front of the Rocky Mountain Event Center, and in aims of having a better canvas, and also with the thought of adding value to an asset that we already have. It was agreed by many of you and city manager that this will be the new location. So since then, we were able to successfully hire a contractor, OCA Maintenance, who has done an excellent job completing the outline and background on the street. We are now working with the artists that were chosen through this RFP process and through our artist selection committee to paint their designs over the pre-laid letters. This should finish up this week if weather permits, and we'll move to the final stage of preservation before the community reveal. This project will be a tourist attraction. It'll add to the ongoing redevelopment that's already happening right now in the city and the area. And hopefully it'll spur even more investment and people coming downtown. Rocky Mountain Black Action is very thankful for this opportunity that's created opportunities for others, not just for our citizens, but also for businesses to be involved. Shout out again to Larima, Blanche's, and Dairy Queen. And special thanks again to the public support from you all, downtown businesses, and the greater Rocky Mountain community, even support coming from outside the city limits. The Dean of Arts on Barton College actually came to assist with some of the templating downtown as well. So thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Blackwell. I'd like to ask the Reverend Nehemiah Smith to the podium.
I would like to say Happy New Year to all of you, to the council, to the mayor, manager, city clerk, and the city attorney. I pray that you have a bountiful new year. Intellectus terminata, that is the Latin for limited understanding. Seems like a lot of limited understanding is going around lately. I think part of that attributed to what happened in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday. Not all of it, but a lot of it had to do with limited understanding of how processes work and how things are to go. And I think that as much as COVID-19 is a pandemic that is ubiquitous, so many people have limited understanding. There are processes that we have to go through and get in order to get certain things done. A lot of us just want it done right now because we live in this microwave society. It just doesn't work like that. Unity Cemetery is blighted. It's a blight in my community, what I consider to be my community, my side of town. However, until there is a comprehensive plan, until professionals come in to look at this cemetery to see what can be done in that cemetery, I pray that the city doesn't even begin to consider giving any monies to anybody until they can come up with a comprehensive plan as to how we're going to remove the blight from our community. And that's going to take professional help. And perhaps the city, after some time, can look at that situation and say we can put some of our considerable resources behind making sure that we get this situation straight. So I'm adamantly against just giving money just because we think that this is what it's going to cost, or some numbers that we've come up with out of wherever. So that is my stance on Unity Cemetery. Not that it doesn't need to be done, but I want to see some community involvement and some community initiative as to what we can do first before we go into just asking willy-nilly for monies to do that. Also, I know that there are many organizations in our community that continue to do great work. OIC, one of them, so many different organizations, and we thank them for the work that they do. But we also understand that it takes time to get things done in some situations. And so when you have intellectus terminata, limited understanding, then you have a problem understanding that sometimes it takes time and the processes need to be done. So thank you very much. Again, Happy New Year and God bless.
Thank you, sir. This time I'd like to ask Ms. Nathleen O'Ree to the podium.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council Manager, City Manager, and City Council members. Happy New Year. And
Happy New Year.
I'm praying that it'll be a happy year. And out of my heart, I was wondering what could I say to the City Council to lift it up, and to the community, to lift up the community in a time like this. And the only thing I could come up with were the words of James Weldon Johnson, to lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. We will sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. We will sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won for everyone. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died. Yet with a steady beat, have not our weary feet come to the place for which our fathers sighed. We have come over a way with its tears has been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. Out from the gloomy past, till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us through thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee. Lest our hearts drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this time I'd like to ask Mr. Bronson Williams to the podium.
I want to say good evening to the mayor and council, and happy new year to each and every one of you as well. About 6 years ago or so, I stood a little further down the aisle here and addressed this council about the possibility of erecting a small resource center at my park that I grew up in, Branch Street Park. Branch Street Park is, of course, in the Ward 3 community. And we understand that many of our young people in the community are faced with difficulties of not having access to internet. Mary Warren at that time, some years ago, talked about how a student would sit on her front porch and use internet because the parents' data had ran out for that month. That child later came on my television show. We talked about the great work he did as an artist and et cetera, and still doing great things. While we know the city cannot provide and be everything to everyone, there's some things that we can do as a city to help expand our children's opportunity in this global market space. As we look towards inclusion and equity throughout our city. When I look in Ward 3, I ask, what do our children do when it comes to access to resources? This is something I too believe should be addressed. In fact, as we're dealing with virtual learning, many students are behind because of, again, not access to viable internet. We have a partner in our community called Suddenlink Communications, which I believe with the right conversations would certainly be willing to partner with the city to make that happen and hopefully affordable. Secondly, I want to commend the city. Many years ago, you had the increase in security in this building, and we saw what happened in Washington, D.C., and we see how we're forward thinking in Rocky Mount when it comes to that area of security, being sure that this space is not breached, because some of that same type of ideas, I certainly believe, live here within our city limits. Also, I'm thankful that later on this council agenda, you're voting on removing the Confederate monument or giving it to someone, because we certainly should never praise the treasonous behaviors of the Confederate people in the South once did before. So again, I always thank you for the hard work that you continue to do, even in the midst of COVID, and understanding that as a community working together, we can certainly grow together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Okay, that concludes petitions to be received from the public. That moves us to item number 8 on our agenda, and that's the consideration of minutes and recommendations from a planning board meeting held on December 8th, 2020. Overview of the requests and recommendations. Recommended action is to acknowledge the receipt of the planning board minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Councilman Joyner, seconded by Daughtridge and Miller. Is there a need for discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask City Clerk if she'll call the roll. If you'll please vote when your name is called.
Councilmember Knight. Blackwell.
Yes.
Joyner. Walker. Daughtridge.
Yes.
Bullock. And Miller.
Yes.
Item carries. So now we have a public hearing relative to the following rezoning request recommended for approval and found compliance with the city comprehensive plan by the planning board. Request by Creighton Companies LLC to rezone roughly 6.68 acres located at 850 and 860 Tiffany Boulevard from O1 to B2. Recommended action is to receive the public comment to adopt the ordinance, which amends the land development code and map. Written comments will be accepted up to 24 hours after the public hearing. Please submit written comments to pamela.casey@rockymountainc.gov. With that said, is there anybody here to speak on this matter? 2 people, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Andrew Pettish. I'm up here on behalf of Creighton Companies LLC. I'm an attorney, Pettish Law, based in Raleigh. Here with me is Peyton Reed on behalf of Creighton Companies, and Jeremy Yee with Kimley Horn, the civil engineer on this project. We have submitted a rezoning application for properties for one property at the corner of Ben Venue and Tiffany Boulevard. That property is currently zoned O&I, office institutional, and we're requesting that it be rezoned to B2, which is a commercial corridor, which would align it with the adjacent parcel, which is currently already zoned B2 commercial corridor. And that would allow those parcels to be recombined and redeveloped. If the council, I know that the staff has prepared a very thorough report on this, and I don't want to belabor that, but we are available for questions if the council has any.
Are there any questions?
I do have one. Thank you.
Councilman Blackwell, yes?
So if we were to extend your request or to approve your request tonight, when would you begin construction, and when would the property be completed and ready for occupation?
I believe I would have Mr. Reed come up and answer that question for you.
Thank you.
Mr. Reed?
Good evening, Mayor. Good meeting, Council. At this time, if everything goes well, we're planning on commencing construction mid to late summer in anticipation of a completion date Q1 of 2022. That's our current plan at the moment.
Thank you.
Do you have a question, Councilman? Okay. Any other additional questions? We're good? Okay. That being said, the recommended action is to receive public comment, which we have, and to adopt the ordinance which amends the land development code map, subject to reconsideration upon receipt of comments. Do I have is there anybody else that needs to speak? I think I was only told there were two people. That's what I thought. Okay. Okay. Hearing none. So then I'll ask for a motion to adopt the ordinance.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Joyner, seconded by Councilman Daughtridge. Need for additional discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask the city clerk if she'll please call the roll.
Councilmember Knight.
Yes.
Blackwell.
Yes.
Joyner.
Yes.
Walker. Daughtridge.
Yes.
Bullock. And Miller.
Yes.
Motion carries. I'll remind the public that written comments will be accepted up to 24 hours after this public hearing. And please submit written comments to pamela.casey@rockymountainc.gov. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Brings us to item B, which is again a public hearing relative to the following land development code amendments recommended for approval and found in compliance with the comprehensive plan by the planning board. Amendments to Chapter 13, minimum design and improvements requirements, Section 1310. Assurance of improvements and inspection procedures. The purpose is to clarify responsibilities and guarantees pertaining to subdivision bonding process to ensure completion of required improvements for major subdivisions in alignment with state statutes. And two, amendments changing the name title as follows throughout the Land Development Code and Code of Ordinances of the City of Rocky Mount. A, to replace Department of Engineering or Engineering Department with Department of Public Works, and B, to replace Director of Engineering with Director of Public Works. Is there anybody here to speak on this particular matter? All right, having none, I'll ask for a motion to adopt the ordinances as written. Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Walker, seconded by Blackwell and Joyner. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask City Clerk if she'll please call the roll.
Councilmember Knight.
Yes.
Blackwell.
Yes.
Joyner.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Daughtridge.
Yes.
Bullock.
Yes.
And Miller.
Yes.
Motion carries. I'll remind everybody that written comments on this matter will be accepted up to 24 hours after this public hearing. Please submit written comments to pamela.casey@rockymountainc.gov. That brings us to item 9 on the agenda, which is the consideration of the revised interlocal agreement with Edgecombe County for management of funds from the Coronavirus Relief Fund established by the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security, or CARES Act. City will receive an additional $135,000 for a total of $260,000 from Edgecombe County's distribution from the state of North Carolina to be used for reimbursement of qualifying expenses associated with COVID-19. The recommended action and request is to approve the agreement and to authorize the mayor to execute the same on behalf of the city.
So moved.
Motion made by Councilman Blackwell. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Joyner. Any additional discussion?
Question.
Yes, sir.
Madam Manager, what's the cumulative amount of the CARES Act that the city of Rocky Mount's received once this is approved? Or if you, even before, if you know that?
Yeah, I don't have that number. I think somebody outside, I can get that for you.
Thanks.
While we wait, are there any additional questions or comments?
It doesn't necessarily have to be now.
Okay, fine. Then then I will entertain a motion then. It's been made.
We'll get it.
It's been seconded. Any additional discussion? With that, I'll ask City Clerk if she'll please call the roll. If you'll please vote.
Councilmember Knight.
Yes.
Blackwell.
Yes.
Joyner. Walker. Daughtridge.
Yes.
Bullock. And Miller.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 10 is the consideration of tax releases and/or refunds. Schedule A, which are taxes under $100, approved for release and a refund by the city manager. And Schedule B, taxes over $100, recommended for release and/or refund by the city council. Recommended action is to acknowledge receipt of the report from the city manager of Schedule A, taxes approved for release and/or refund, and B, to approve release and/or refund of taxes listed on Schedule B. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Councilman Daughtridge. Is there a second? Second by Walker. Is there a need for additional discussion? Hearing none, I'll
I have
ask.
no problem with this item, but sometime back I had asked if the actual physical address of the property for which the taxes were being forgiven or released be included in the information we've provided, and that's still not the case. We get the address of the person who owns the property.
Okay.
You'll make that adjustment going
Good,
forward.
we can.
In the meanwhile, we have a motion and a second, and any additional discussion on this item? Hearing none, I'll ask City Clerk if you'll please call the roster and ask everybody to vote when their name is called.
Councilmember Knight.
Yes.
Blackwell.
Yes.
Joyner. Walker. Daughtridge.
Yes.
Bullock. And Miller.
Yes.
Motion carries, which brings us to item 11 on the agenda, which is the consideration of resolution declaring the city's official intent to reimburse expenditures made for the replacement of equipment, transformer replacement on Old Mill Road point of delivery station, wastewater treatment plant generation system, Tar River Reservoir raw water aeration system, and wastewater treatment plant switch gear and motor control center required in connection with fiscal year 2021 installment financing, $5,382,000. Is there a motion to adopt this resolution?
So moved.
Motion made by Councilman Daughtridge. Second by second by Councilman Joyner and Miller. Is there a need for additional discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask if City Clerk please call the roll. If you'll please vote.
Councilmember Knight. Blackwell.
Yes.
Joyner. Walker. Daughtridge.
Yes.
Bullock. And Miller.
Yes.
Motion carries. It brings us to item 12 on the agenda, which is the consideration of grant project ordinance appropriating funds for economic development activity associated with Project Tire. It's $500,000 funds awarded by the North Carolina Department of Commerce's Building Reuse Grant Project. Recommended action is to adopt the ordinance. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Councilperson Miller. Is there a second? Second by Joyner. Is there a need for discussion?
Well,
Councilman
question.
Daughtridge, you have a point?
Well, clarification, I guess, from city attorney. Within the agreement that we have with Project Tire, there is the clawback provision, I would assume, that's if they don't meet all the criteria that they will reimburse the city because we're due pay the state if they do not meet it. So we're on the hook. I want to make sure they're on the hook.
But that's the way they normally work. Particularly when they've got to create so many jobs.
Correct. Do you know, Madam Manager?
No, I think his answer is correct, that, that if they don't meet the requirements, then, the city backs this, but however, the state has to call for it.
Correct. I just know that Rocky Mountain has been on the hook because that was not in one of our contracts or one of the contracts many, many moons ago.
I wasn't here many months ago. But.
Right. I'm talking about reimbursing the city if the state.
Reimburse the state, yeah. If the jobs are not.
Correct.
Yes, that is the way the process works.
I understand.
But the state has to call for that.
I understand.
We have.
Is there additional discussion on this matter? Hearing none, I have a motion and a second. I'll ask City Clerk if she'll call the roll. If you'll please vote when your name is called.
Councilmember Knight. Blackwell.
Yes.
Joyner. Walker. Daughtridge.
Yes.
Bullock. And Miller.
Yes.
Motion carries, or ordinance is approved. Item 13, which is consideration of certification by the city clerk of the sufficiency of petitions submitted for the following annexations and scheduled public hearings. Petition for annexation number 318 for 1523 Westmount Drive, contiguous to the city, and B, petition for annexation number 319 for 1533 Westmount Drive, which is non-contiguous. Recommended action is to adopt the resolution of certification of sufficiency of petition for annexations sufficient and adopt resolutions scheduling public hearings for February 8th, 2021, and instructs the Department of Development Services to prepare a feasibility study. So I hear a motion. Motion made by Councilman Walker. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Joyner. Is there a need for discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask City Clerk if she'll please call the roll.
Councilmember Knight. Blackwell.
Yes.
Joyner. Walker. Daughtridge.
Yes.
Bullock. And Miller.
Yes.
Motion carries. Brings us to item 14 on the agenda, which is consideration of the water purchase contract with the town of Nashville. Four successive 10-year terms. Recommended action is to approve the contract, authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the same on behalf of the city. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Councilman Daughtridge. Is there a second? A second by Joyner. Okay. With that, Councilman Walker, I believe you have a question regarding this matter.
I just wanted to make sure, same contract that Councilman Knight had asked about, the term agreements, or is this a different?
I'd like to know about them anyway. Can we talk about it?
I didn't hear the question.
Is this the same contract that Councilman Knight had asked about our term agreements being too long, or is this a different contract?
Okay, we'll ask city staff to come and speak to that. I think city manager has somebody queued up. Then perhaps one of the more qualified to answer. Most qualified to answer, put it that way.
40 years.
40 years.
For
with,
10-year terms.
4 10-year terms. But it's a total of 40 years. As it was prior.
So we're fixing terms for 40 years? Does that make sense to us?
Most of our wholesale water purchase contracts over the years has been 40 years. This one expired on October 13, 2020. And so this contract is basically a renewal of that contract. And the only change is that instead of 40 straight years, we're doing it in 4 10-year segments. So at the end of each 10-year period, the city and Nashville has the right to renegotiate. And if there are any changes can be made.
So did you say that the previous contract was a 40-year contract?
Yes, sir.
And
And
so you took the same time, but you split it up
in 4 10-year terms.
for 10 years. So at the rates of the resale rates, are all things even? Are they the same?
No, the resale rates are subjected to council's approval on the 1st of July of each fiscal year.
Okay, so we do get a chance.
Yes,
to-
each year, the 1st of July of each budget year, we can, if we make rate adjustments, it is effective.
So we, just for clarification, we get to do that annually under this contract. Each July 1, there is an opportunity to reset rates depending on whatever conditions exist in the marketplace.
That is correct.
So this way, we are committed to our customer, which we have had a long-term relationship with, but we're also able to make adjustments for market fluctuations.
That is correct.
Councilman,
We don't approve each individual water contract. At that time, at the beginning of the fiscal year, we just approved what the water rate would be as wholesale, correct?
If there's a change. If there's a change at the beginning of the fiscal year, then the council would make that approval and we would notify Nashville of the change in rate 60 days prior to the change.
So that's water rates for, where we'd be approving the rates for everyone that's receiving water from Rocky Mount, correct?
Unless council decides otherwise for just wholesale customers, which is not typical. So rates when adjusted would be both for our wholesale customers as well as our residential customers.
Councilman Walker, is that satisfactory to you?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Any additional questions or discussion?
Well,
Councilman Daughtry?
if I read correctly, Mr. Ben, I think in there, they cannot exceed the lowest wholesale rate that we have. Additionally, there's volume requirements that they have to meet. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. I have a motion and a second on the matter. Any additional discussion? All right, hearing none, I'll ask City Clerk if you'll please call the roll. If you'll please vote when your name is called.
Councilmember Knight,
Yes.
Blackwell,
Yes.
Joyner, Walker,
Yes.
Daughtry,
Yes.
Bullock, and Miller.
Yes.
Item carries. Item 15 on our agenda is the consideration of water assessment contract with Brandon Clark and ETAF Hatu for water service at 1832 Willow Glen Road. It's $265 water meter and capacity fees prepaid, $4,000 water main and tap fee to be assessed. Recommended action is to approve the contract and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the same on behalf of the city. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Councilman Daughtry. Was there a second by Councilman Walker? Is there a need for discussion on this item?
I do have a question. This address is in the city limits, so they had previously had a septic tank, and that's the question.
Yeah, what is it?
She's asking if this particular address has historically been on well and septic, and that's the reason for the request for the water meter and the water main and tap fee to be assessed.
I would think so, yes, yes.
Maybe,
Yeah, that's correct.
okay. So the answer is yes. Do you hear that, Councilperson Miller?
Thank you, yes.
Is there a need for additional conversation or are there questions? Hearing none, I'll ask City Clerk to please call the roll if you'll vote when your name is called.
Councilmember Knight,
Yes.
Blackwell,
Yes.
Joyner,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Daughtry,
Yes.
Bullock, and Miller.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Item 16 is consideration of the monument transfer agreement with the Robert Henry Ricks Camp 75 of the North Carolina Sons of Confederate Veterans and the Bethel Heroes 636 North Carolina Division United Daughters of the Confederacy. Recommended action is to approve the agreement and authorize the mayor to execute the same.
So moved.
Councilman Knight made the motion. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Joyner. Is there a need for discussion on this matter? Hearing none, I will ask the city clerk if she'll please call the roll. If you'll please vote.
Councilmember Knight,
Yes.
Blackwell.
Yes.
Joyner. Walker.
Yes.
Daughtry.
Yes.
Bullock. And Miller.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 17 is consideration of the 2021 City Council and Committee of the Whole meeting schedules. Requested action is that we approve these schedules. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Councilman Blackwell. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Walker. Is there a need for discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask City Clerk if she'll please call the roll.
Councilmember Knight.
Yes.
Blackwell.
Yes.
Joyner. Walker.
Yes.
Daughtry.
Yes.
Bullock. And Miller.
Yes.
Brings us to item 18, which are appointments. Are there any new appointments to be made and/or removals? All right, hearing none, we'll move to item 19, which is discussion regarding Sudden Link that Councilman Knight had brought forward. So I'll turn the mic over to you, sir.
Yeah. I think some other councilmen getting some concerns about the carrier Sudden Link. With the COVID, a lot of people are working from home and having tremendous amount of the internet being down. And so some of the employers are saying that if you cannot access your internet, then you have to come back into the office or to the work site. So there's been a lot of concern from a lot of the citizens. And plus absorbing rates and fees, wait time, when you ask for someone to come out to do technical support. And also some areas still does not have internet access, cannot access the internet. And I know it's going to be a discussion somewhere in Raleigh in reference to broadband expansion. And I don't know if we can begin that, or we have begun it before, but at least get some information on that. I think we would probably be interested instead of relying on one carrier. But we're being a lot of complaints in reference to Sudden Link.
I actually have heard a number of complaints. In fact, have been asked by a number of other mayors in local communities residing next to us, close to us, having similar issues to join them, more or less, in petitioning members of council in Raleigh regarding this particular matter. So I know this was not on the agenda early, but do you have any kind of anecdotal information, Madam Manager, maybe speaking to challenges or no challenges that you have logged as complaints with the city?
Oh, yes, we receive complaints quite a bit, and we refer them, and I forgot the office in Raleigh that complaint is referred to, because the local government no longer has the opportunity to be as active as you have in the past. I guess the lobbying efforts of the cable franchises cut you out of that process. And unfortunately, at the local level, there isn't much more you can do other than just refer the complaint to Raleigh. So it's probably a good idea, a suggestion to have a conversation with our delegation in Raleigh to see exactly what can be done. I'm sure that we are not the only local government that's having this problem. It's probably not just Sudden Link either that is causing a problem in other communities across the state. So that would be my guidance.
So with that said, I was wanting to explore, signing on the petition, but it would be much more stronger and strengthened by a resolution by this council, if that's something that you guys would like to consider, whether that's tonight or later.
I have to say, Mr. Nick, if you allow me.
Please do, Councilman Blackwell.
This is a called issue that I have had persisting over a number of years, and it's getting worse. I don't know what's up with the current Sudden Link management, but their team seems to not be responsive at all to customer concerns. People are having to wait for weeks for service. We've had several issues at OIC with people being inconsistent at Sudden Link about coming out and servicing, not taking responsibility for things that they did. having service interrupted and dropped, according to whoever is around using devices, open access, all kinds of nightmares, and that's just my little business. But I'm just saying, I've had a number of calls and complaints, and I appreciate your request, and I really appreciate Councilmember Knight's vision about opening this dialogue up. I'd like to hear other stories, because sometimes, we need to paint the picture of what's wrong. We're not just grumbling and griping. People are paying good money, a lot of money. The cable bill looks like a little rental bill. I mean, like a property rental bill. You have
That's before you take HBO,
That's
right?
before, right? That's right. That's just with basic stuff. So people are paying good money. It's not as if people are not paying. But I think we deserve better service in this, and I think the General Assembly needs to do something. They protected their interests. Who's protecting our interests?
Amen. So, Councilman Daughtridge, and then you, Councilman Knight.
I agree with everything that's been said, and I would piggyback and say that's also economic development. We have a lot of opportunities, and one of the things that could hinder us is not having adequate service. I know personally from my company, a very small company here in Rocky Mountain, but we still depend on the internet. We had to invest in fiber, and that was a huge investment for my little small company. And I'm sure other people have to do this because we have to survive in today's environment, and that's what we had to do. We had to, and I'm sure other companies, and unfortunately, that residents don't have that same opportunity. And yes, it's education, it's business, it's economic development, it's safety, it's all the above. And I would welcome a resolution. I would welcome a delegation going to Raleigh. I would, whatever we can do, because like everyone else, that's one of the biggest topics we probably hear. Again, realistically, what can we do? But you don't know until you try.
Councilman Knight.
And in the meantime, while we're hashing it out in Raleigh and preparing the resolution, which I support, if city manager could get a contact number from someone in Raleigh, so when we are experiencing problems, that we can have a direct person that we could communicate with. People, cable being turned off and paying from $230, $80 to $300 just to be able to watch TV and to access internet. And another major complaint, if you don't subscribe to the cable, and they won't give you the internet because they're afraid if you get the internet, then you can watch the TV without having the cable. Yeah. So it's a lot of things that needs to be addressed, but if we can get a contact number when we're getting overwhelming calls from our constituents, that would probably help expedite some of the problems that we're having.
Yes, sir, certainly.
Great. So we can then put this on the agenda for the next meeting, perhaps. Do you feel an urgency to do it before then?
Quite sure it's one already floating around.
Sure.
Who drafts the clerk and the.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Get it going, Jeff.
And I will say also anecdotally, as my father used to say, you're preaching to the choir. So thank you. All right, so that concludes item 19 at this point, which brings us to item 20. It's closed session, so I'll look for a motion to go into closed session for attorney-client privileges. Motion made by Councilman Joyner, seconded by Councilperson Miller. With that said, is there a need for discussion? Yes, Councilman Walker.
I was looking.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Everybody, I'm grateful for a new year.
With that said, I'll ask the city clerk if she'll please call the roll. We're going to closed session.
Councilmember Knight. Blackwell.
Yes.
Joyner.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Daughtridge.
Yes.
Bullock. And Miller.
Yes.
Okay, we are now in closed session. As soon as we turn everything off.